to the Cinema Gold Show. I'm your host, Larry Least, and on today's episode, we're diving into Let's Talk and discussing does Disney have a streaming problem? But first, we'd like to thank our sponsor, Poddex, for sponsoring this episode. Poddex is a unique tool to engage with your audience and grow your audience and get more engagement. Check them out today at poddex.com. Use the promo code Larry21 for 10% off your order. I'd also like to remind you we have merch today. Check it out today. The link to the merch store will be in the description. And now on to our main topic. Disney Plus is one of the most popular streaming services in the world, but has the company's strategy handicapped their Pixar and Marvel movies at the box office? It was a very happy 4th of July holiday weekend for movie theater owners in the U.S. For the second week in a row, the top 3 highest grossing movies all crossed 20 million when the 4-day window was accounted for. More impressive still, all the weekend's top 5 grossing picks are on the road to turning a hefty profit, with the second highest earner, Paramount's Top Gun Maverick, adding an astounding 25.8 million to its gargantuan 564 million domestic total, despite being in its 6th weekend. It's giddy news for distributors and exhibitors who bet there was still life in the theatrical model 2 years after the pandemic, and 1 year after an opinion piece proclaimed, "Sorry, we aren't going back to the movies." But for all the good vibes, the one disappointing box office story continues to be Disney's Lightyear, the spin-off of Pixar's flagship franchise, Toy Story. Despite opening only 3 weekends ago, the Disney tentpole underwhelmed again when it failed to crack even the top 5 this weekend. Instead, it tumbled another 65% from weekend to weekend, grossing a mere 105 million in total at the domestic box office. For context, its family-friendly rival Minions: The Rise of Gru grossed 107 million. In other words, it made more in 4 days than what Lightyear earned in 3 weeks. That is remarkable when one remembers that for most of the last decade, Disney and its many ancillary studios have been the box office leaders. There are various factors to consider when studying Lightyear's box office troubles. A loud and toxic wing of social media users will insist it has something to do with the film, including a happy lesbian couple, as well as the controversy about Tim Allen's voice being rather inexplicably replaced by Chris Evans. However, beyond handicapping Lightyear from the rich box office shores of countries with appalling records on LGBTQ+ rights, such as China, where Lightyear is expected to be banned, it is unlikely that the bare minimum of inclusivity will affect the franchise's movie's box office, at least in the US. After all, Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker also included a blink and you'll miss it kiss between women and earned 515 million stateside. If there is any financial liability for not ignoring the same-sex couples, it is marginal. Meanwhile, some might suggest that Lightyear, as a spin-off of Toy Story, is based on an aged Disney property that debuted almost 30 years ago. Conversely, Minions is a prequel to the much more recent Despicable Me franchise that launched in 2010 and is therefore more relevant to younger audiences. However, this too would appear to be misleading since the last Toy Story picture, Toy Story 4, grossed 434 million in the US only 3 summers ago and crossed 1 billion globally. Ultimately, what appears to be the bigger probable issue is that Lightyear is the first Pixar movie to get a theatrical release since Onward's truncated theatrical run in March 2020. And boy, do I remember that release. That original Pixar IP had the unenviable position of opening 1 week before the world effectively shut down in the US due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Yep, I remember those days. I was working in a movie theater. All we had was Onward. I think it's Bloodshot with Vin Diesel, and then one other movie. I want to say it was that Scooby-Doo movie, but I could be wrong. The same pandemic is also why Disney prudently elected to release no theatrical films for the rest of 2020, save for a day-and-date release of Mulan where you could watch it at home for a hefty premium at the same time it was in theaters. But even as late as this past March with Turning Red, all of Pixar's productions, which also included Soul and last year's Luca, were released exclusively on Disney Plus for free. Meanwhile, Walt Disney's animation studios, saw one of their films get Mulan's premium day and date release strategy with Raya and the Last Dragon. Their other 2021 release, Encanto, was only exclusively in theaters for a scant 30 days. For most families, it didn't even register as a pop culture phenomenon until their kids could sing "We Don't Talk About Bruno" at home via the film's Disney Plus release over the Christmas holiday. All of this, of course, originates from the need to release content during the pandemic. However, it also speaks to Disney's greater recent strategy to pivot from dominating the theatrical market to funneling their audiences to Disney Plus. It's the same logic that has caused Disney to demand an armada of Marvel and Star Wars streaming series from Marvel Studios and Lucasfilm, as well as part of the reason the latter has transitioned exclusively to television for the last several and next several years. Disney even visibly tinkered with whether they could earn more money off a Marvel movie from a smaller audience of subscribers willing to pay a premium than they could just releasing said movie exclusively in theaters. Hence, Black Widow debuting on Disney Plus $30 surcharge the same day it opened in theaters. The film subsequently sank like a stone at the box office, causing Scarlett Johansson to sue Disney. One of the company's spokespeople then accused Scarlett Johansson of having a callous disregard for public health. The rather disingenuous attack on Johansson, who was seeking compensation for Disney's streaming strategy undermining her back-end theatrical deal, had a chilling effect on the industry. Even frequent Marvel director Joe Russo told the media once that, quote, that was really not an appropriate way for them to handle that situation. It was disturbing to us as artists. Ever since Black Widow's theatrical underperformance, Disney has backed away from the day-and-date release strategy, but has still encouraged audiences to anticipate brief theatrical windows between a Marvel movie opening in cinemas and debuting on their popular service. Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, like Shang-Chi before it, saw fans wait only 45 days before being able to watch it at home, alongside the latest episode of Ms. Marvel. At the moment, and judging only from the outside, Disney's top priority for content appears to be getting it as quickly to streaming as possible. And yet, in the wake of Netflix's own infamous financial problems, it's worth wondering if the bloom is coming off the streaming rose. A year ago, proclamations about theatrical's demise and the rise of streaming were omnipresent. And I admit, I for one, thought the theaters were actually going to slowly die off. And lo and behold, most of them survived. AMC's still around. They were able to make deals. The theater chain I worked for is still around. Yes, they've cut what needed to be cut and made cuts that were effective at keeping them alive. But all in all, they've all survived. Heck, they're even trying to bring back MoviePass. But that's a topic for another conversation. But this past weekend, an older, skewing adult movie like Elvis continued to overperform, earning more than Lightyear did during the holiday, and looking poised to gross more in total domestically. Meanwhile, for the first time since 2015, the biggest movie of the summer is not a Marvel Studios joint. To be sure, Doctor Strange 2 is an unqualified hit for Disney, earning $187 million in its opening weekend, and more than doubling the box office debut of the first Doctor Strange from 6 years ago. It also earned a total of $410 million domestically and $951 million globally. That is a massive hit. But Top Gun Maverick is bigger. Currently, the Tom Cruise-led sequel to a 36-year-old movie continues to wow audiences as indicated by a high-flying run that sees minimal box office drops week to week. To date, the movie has already outstripped Doctor Strange with $571 million domestically and $1 billion globally. And it appears on track to crack the top 10 biggest earners of all time domestically, outpacing 23 of Marvel's 28 released films to date. And that all comes after opening at about 30% less than Multiverse of Madness. Admittedly, a large element of this could come down to quality. One could reasonably argue Top Gun Maverick is among the finest action movies ever produced by Hollywood, a feat made somewhat demonstrable by its sterling reviews and an A+ cinema score. By contrast, Doctor Strange 2 received a B+ cinema score from audiences the second lowest in MCU history. Nevertheless, the fact remains that Disney Marvel spent the 2010s dominating the multiplex. Yet this summer, a 60-year-old Tom Cruise is stealing their thunder at the box office. He continues to steal thunder, but we gotta watch and see, can he steal thunder from the God of Thunder? And as Cruise prepares to fight his own studio to ensure his next film, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, has around a 100-day theatrical window at the box office, Disney is conditioning fans to realize they only need to wait 45 days for the next Marvel movie to be available at home. For a family of 4 with children desperate to see the new MCU a second time, sounds like a bargain. Whether streaming is the primary reason for Doctor Strange's rapid fade at the domestic box office, or for Lightyear's complete failure, is still somewhat debatable, but a lot of eyes will be on the performance of this weekend's Thor: Love and Thunder. And honestly, Disney's own internal accounting may ultimately surmise diminished box office is a fair trade for a steady and climbing subscription base for Disney+. Does the difference between $900 million and $1 billion really matter if a happy and growing subscription pool is spending more in a month than what what Doctor Strange 2 is likely to make in its entire global run? Still, at a time of evidently high pressure and extreme upheaval among Disney's executive class, Disney and even Marvel, no longer looking like the king of the box office jungle, gives one pause. Let us know in the comments section below. Do you think Disney Plus has a streaming problem? Do you think they're making a big mistake allowing movies to arrive on Disney Plus within 45 days? Let us know. And of course, hit that thumbs up button if you like our video. Hit the subscribe button and the bell notification button to be notified of future videos. And if you want to support the show, buy us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/cinemagold. You can support us, send us $1, $2, $20, $50. Hey, anything you want, you can help us grow. We're looking to upgrade our equipment, bring in new hosts, be able to pay them, pay our writers, be able to live stream from entertainment events like D23, Comic-Con, New York Comic-Con. But you can make that all happen. Of course, as always, thank you so much for watching and listening. We will see you next time.